I think a few apologies are in order. I have not been posting at all lately, no reviews or Patreon content. I'm gonna try to get better about posting Q&As and audio reviews and all that shit. For some reason, transitioning into spring semester really halted productivity on my channel, but I left my camera here, home, and then it was sent to me, but then I was on set a bunch of, I was busy, but I had enough time to make a video, so I really don't have any excuse. So hopefully this is the video that gets me back on track. Sorry about that. Now here's the bigger apology, and you can choose whether or not to believe my excuse here. I know it's the truth, but I also know it sounds like bullshit. I'm not going to post the ASMR review. I recorded it back when I was here on winter break. I'm on spring break now. That's how long it's taken me to make another video. And then I left my SD card back home along with my camera, which I previously mentioned, and then it was sent back up here. But before I got a chance to load all my footage onto this computer, I shot an interview with Sucklord for Ultrawave, and I ran out of footage. I was in charge of the master shot, and I ran out of footage as the interview was going, so I had to quickly delete stuff. I deleted the bird box footage. I didn't need that anymore, the Y tu mamá también footage, but I deleted like a quarter of the footage of the ASMR review, and I don't care enough about A Quiet Place or the ASMR joke to re-record the whole review. I'd really just rather spend my time talking about stuff I care more about, like Children of Men, even though this was a Patreon thing, and there's really no reason for me to be making this video. And my third apology is for my possibly hot take on Children of Men. So let's get into the thick of it. I've gained a really fond appreciation of Alfonso Cuarón in the past few months. After this video, I'm going to try to finish his filmography just for my own sake. But it seems to me that he has three types of movies: children's fantasy movies, big budget action films, and intimate movies about his relationship with Mexico. Both movies of this latter category are incredible. I'm not too familiar with his adventure movies. I saw Harry Potter as a kid, and Gravity was a movie that impressed me but didn't quite emotionally grasp me. That film is in the same boat as Children of Men, both in the sense that they're his two big budget action films, and in the sense that I feel very similarly about Children of Men as I do Gravity. I spent a lot of my Y tu mamá también review impressed by how clearly that film and Roma so clearly come from the same headspace, and I'm gonna spend this review additionally impressed by how similar these two films are, but how different this set of films is from this other set of films. I guess what I'm trying to say is that Cuarón's consistency within the diversity of his filmography is very unique and impressive. But I gotta say, the real star of Children of Men is probably Emmanuel Lubezki. Obviously, Cuarón had to plan and organize a lot, especially in the film's climax. These two films consistently leave me in awe, wondering how to even begin approaching these set pieces. But it's the camera movement that really makes this film what it is. That's, I think we can all agree on that. That's what everyone points out about this movie, so I'm not really, saying anything new there. And granted, Cuarón did have a big role in operating the camera, and he's always been heavily involved in the cinematography, so I can't, completely give one person the credit here. But nonetheless, their collective work is just incredible, obviously. Whenever a good action movie comes out, John Wick, Fury Road, Mission Impossible, I feel like people always flock to say, this is how action should be done in movies. And those people are, stupid to imply that there's any one way to do it. Maybe Fury Road was just handled how Fury Road should have been handled, and that's a very specific instance, but the same is true for Cuarón's films. The action style is great for Children of Men and Gravity, which is why those films are as good as they are, but that's not the right way to do action, full stop. It just works very well for this specific instance. The incredibly immersive one-take action set pieces that Lubezki is pretty much mastered at this point. All of these films, they feel like, Children of Men specifically, it feels almost like a cutscene in a video game, like a really cinematic video game or something. And it's not just the precision in the action scenes. Even these still moments and these scenes showcasing the setting require such precise blocking and camera placement. Maybe the film peaks early, some might disagree, but even if it does peak early, it maintains its impressive visual approach throughout its entire duration. This is just a perfect example of world building through visuals, and I honestly think it should be considered the gold standard in that respect at least. What it is not the gold standard in, however, is the writing, which is notable because this is the Cuarón film with the most script collaborators. 5 screenwriters, including Cuarón, and it was based on a book. Maybe the poor writing is simply due to a loss of vision, convolution as a result of too many hands in the pot. We have this world that these characters are familiar with, and they're familiar with each other, and yet we get expositional dialogue that feels so directed at the audience that you can forget that this is a conversation the characters are having with each other, that the audience isn't actually being addressed. Which is frustrating because, as I mentioned, the movie does such a great job establishing the world through visuals alone, it doesn't need all this exposition. Another big weakness is the character writing. The actors pretty much do all they can with what they're given, but I found myself in a very Gravity-like situation where the characters have motivation and compelling backstory, but for some reason, I'm still not that invested in what happens to them. Obviously, basic human empathy kicks in, and I want these characters to survive and save the world and whatnot, but I just don't feel the depth that I've seen that Cuarón is capable of in his characters. And I know that having these distinct types of movies means that these movies are more character-driven, but I don't think that should be an excuse for having stale characters in these big action films. Theo and Julian have a lot of complexities in their relationship, but for some reason I wasn't all that compelled, and maybe because of that I didn't feel as much as I should have when Julian dies. Maybe it's that they had basic ideas for these characters, motivation and backstory and conflict, and just didn't dig deep enough, wrote enough to establish that these were aspects of the characters but didn't quite implement them into the events of the story. Maybe it's that Theo completes his character arc a third into the movie and the rest feels more like falling action. But what do I know? And I get that there are movies like Dunkirk where the cinematic experience is the purpose of the film and developing the characters would almost distract from that. I actually think the worst parts of Saving Private Ryan are where they stop the story and have the characters talk about their personal lives. Not because I dislike character development, but because I wasn't a fan of how they were developing the characters. So the same should be true of Children of Men, because on a technical level, it's of course a cinematically rousing experience, but I think it's the fact that they went for it. They tried to give these characters depth, and while I appreciate the effort in trying to give them a reason for us to latch onto them, I don't think it was totally successful. I also felt that, and this is even more personal preference, Michael Caine's character just added really juvenile comedy to the film. Like, yeah, the character's immature, but it feels like his very design and inclusion in the story is also immature. Like, oh, wouldn't it be wacky if Michael Caine were a long-haired stoner? If it works for you, then that's obviously fine. It just didn't quite land for me, I guess. I've also had a realization. A lot of people have compared Logan to this film, and The Last of Us. But all 3 of these films are just Lord of the Rings, with a person instead of a ring. Unlike Children of Men, however, Lord of the Rings has characters constantly changing and growing and reducing and developing, and even Logan does too, at least more so than Children of Men. But again, after Theo finds out that Key's pregnant, there's no dynamic character change. Not that that's required for a movie to be good, but I think that might be a big contributor to my dissatisfaction with the film. There's such a universal praise around this film that I felt like I had missed something when I watched it. I still do. I still feel like I've missed something. I get that there's commentary on how we treat the world, how we treat each other, hope for humanity, celebrity culture, xenophobia, refugee crises, apathy as a result of privilege, but I don't feel like it says anything new about any of those things, which is crazy because this is so many people's favorite Cuarón film. I just can't wrap my head around it. I even did something I never do before my reviews. I looked up other people's essays and reviews, trying to gain a stronger appreciation, but aside from the technical aspects, I really didn't. Overall, I still liked the movie, if you want to place my thoughts into a like-dislike binary. I know I'm complaining a lot, but there is a lot to appreciate, and I do think that the film should be seen as a cinematic achievement. I just feel like Cuarón is at his best when he's doing intimate character studies. He's able to get, at least me, more personally invested. He's able to use this to make more cogent statements about the world, and that doesn't come at the cost of cinematic brilliance. I know comparing these films is like apples to oranges, but even in a vacuum, my opinion of Children of Men still stands, and I'm gonna give it like a high 6 or low 7. If that upsets you, I'm sorry, but what do you want me to do? Maybe you can convince me it's a better movie than I think it is in the comments or on social media, to which I have links in the description, as well as my Patreon and just my page. Okay, yeah, that's it. Go check those out, and have a nice day, as always.